This is the background story to Southbank Tunes, a poem I distinctly remember writing. In 2013 it was, the same evening I'd been to a photo exhibition put on by Mitsubishi at the Oxo Tower, which was in memory of the survivors and the victims of the tsunami. 2 years later, 2 years after tsunami it was called. And the exhibition really moved me, but I was walking home, very pensive mood, along the South Bank towards the festival hall. I decided to stop at the Latin American bar that's there. It's right next to the bridges that go across to the embankment. And I sat and wrote 2 poems. One was a poem called Never Forgot, which was connected to a speech that somebody made there about how images and memories have a different meaning and a different than they used to now that they are digitally called. And the other was a poem called Forever Yours, and it was based on from a photograph that you probably remember seeing yourself of a young girl called Ruri Sasaki, who stood on her own with a trumpet in her hand, tears down her face and a little suitcase next to her. And she'd come back to play a tune for her parents who'd both died in the tsunami. It's a very, very moving photograph. And I wrote this poem, but having finished those, I had another glass of wine and I was just watching the world go by, seeing all the different people. And then Big Ben struck 10 and this train kept rumbling past every now and then across the bridge. And then I heard the sweet tunes of Baker Street, out of what I thought was a sax, but and it struck me at the time that what about him playing his sax or actually his clarinet, and really in a world where there was also lots of chaos going around, and despite all of that, and despite whether people were taking notice of him or they weren't, that he kept on playing. And how people who love music will do that, and people who love life will do that. Anyway, I wrote the poem. Don't think there's anything particularly complex about it. But then I went to say hello to the guy, and gave some money, told him I was writing a poem about him, and his name was Blair Zima, so this poem's dedicated to him. So we said our goodbyes, and a while later I went back, gave him a copy of the poem, which he was delighted about, and he let me take a couple of pictures of him, and I took the other sort of long exposure pictures of the South Bank that you see as part of this presentation. And I used to pop and see him every now and then, every time I would keep an eye out or an ear out for him. And it was about 6 or 9 months later I went to see him, and ironically he did stop playing rather than keep playing, and we had a big hug, and he told me how he was getting on and such like. And then as we bade farewell, he shouted out to me, oh, by the way, I've still got your poem. It's pinned next to my bed in my bedsit, which made me very happy. And anyway, the latest part of the story is that this year I still didn't feel comfortable about the sax being in the poem, so you can see the original poem, and this one I felt that my poetic license wasn't sufficient to give him a sax instead of a clarinet, so I changed the poem to include the clarinet, and maybe I need to keep an eye out for him and give him a copy of it with the clarinet in. But anyway, Blair Zima, this one was for you.